working with so many people around the world by now. I've been doing this for about 15 years. Hundreds of people I've worked with from different cultures, different backgrounds, different belief systems. This is a real phenomenon. I mean, whether people like it or not, or want to accept it or not, way too many people have similar experiences.
Right.
So because of that, I felt that we just have to just talk about it. We start talking about it.
Yeah.
Whether the mainstream or the old paradigm, whatever, believes it or not, or understands it or not, because otherwise you're kind of like living this secret, this double life.
Right.
It's like hiding, the truth. Why should you hide your truth? And so that's why I felt like I'm just going to make a movie.
Yeah.
I'm just going to make a movie and say it as it is, and also as much as possible bring some science to it when possible, if
Right.
possible.
Greetings and welcome to the Vortex. I'm your host, Daniel Allen Jones, and I'm very honored to be here with Caroline Cory. It's an honor to be here with you. So you've done some really incredible work when it comes to understanding the metaphysical aspect and the spiritual and consciousness connections to several of these different mysterious issues when some people think about the UFO subject or the alien experiences. There are a lot of different viewpoints when it comes to this, but share us a little bit about, with your work, the angle that you approach and how something like consciousness and our experiences throughout life and maybe many different lives can culminate together to show us that there's a lot more to what we're dealing with when it comes to UFOs and aliens.
Well, it's all about consciousness, whether you're seeing a being or an angel or a spirit guide or a UFO. It's your consciousness that's tapping into this information and allowing you to interpret that information according to your belief systems or your upbringing, which is also your belief systems. And so, to me, that's really at the core of understanding everything. And I think that if you try to understand the mechanics of consciousness as a whole, you realize that you can expand it to the point of perhaps consciously have certain experiences, or if you do have spontaneous experiences, make more sense out of it or learn how to interpret these experiences. So it's through consciousness that I think you can evolve. And so that's the reason why that is the base of all of my work.
Right. I think it's something that many people have an idea about. They might think of themselves as religious, or maybe they say, I'm spiritual. Or maybe they don't feel that they're either of those things, but either way, they connect with something consciously, or maybe unconsciously, that allows them to perceive their reality in different ways. Some people, and this is kind of an interesting issue here, and even our modern understanding of science, some people seem to think that consciousness is local in the body, it's part of the brain chemistry, or that it's located somewhere here. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, there's plenty of evidence that shows that consciousness is not the brain itself, it's not coming out of the brain. We know this from near-death experiences. We know this also from all kinds of experiments that were done demonstrating how the mind or the consciousness affects matter. How is it possible that your intent could change the outcome of matter, can be measurable if it was a byproduct of the brain? So it doesn't even make sense. And also, I have to say that for me, it started at a very young age where I had this spontaneously encounter. So at the age of 5, you don't really kind of plan this,
Right.
and you're not taught any of this. So when it happens spontaneously like that, so through this experience, I realized that I could perceive the subtle energy, I could hear, see, sense information that other people around me couldn't perceive. So that got me to start asking the questions. How is it possible? What did my brain have to do? What did my body have to do? What did my consciousness have to do to be able to tap into that information when the people around me couldn't do that? So I spent that was pretty much my whole life career.
Oh, wow.
Trying to understand the mechanics of consciousness. And I realized that it's really the core, in other words, that's the core of all of understanding. Because if you understand the mechanics of consciousness, you understand the mechanics of the universe itself, the exchange of consciousness, then you can make sense of telepathy or encounters with other beings or spiritual experiences. You begin to make sense of everything that we think is paranormal or supernatural. It's actually simply expanding your consciousness beyond the normal human functioning, so that you can tap into these other realities at will, and even upon command. So, and I think that is really ultimately why we are here. We are here to understand how consciousness works through this physical apparatus. But what else? And how far can you take that so that you're not a victim of your human body, your human condition, but you can control it in a good way.
Right.
Meaning have control over it.
I think it's incredible to see how many people from different backgrounds, they could have a cultural perspective on several issues, and there can be differences all over the board. But when it comes down to the core issue, and this is something that I'm very fascinated by, consciousness is such a interesting topic, and I think that there are so many things that, as you're saying, that show that we're interconnected as people, regardless of your background or where you're born. But beyond our physical bodies that we're in here in this life, do you find that there are some things that indicate that our consciousness expands beyond just the body that we're in a sense that, let's say, we might have lives in the past or in different parts of the world or maybe beyond? What do you think about that?
Yeah, so what happens is when I had that experience at a very young age and I started to kind of research and study and, I went really, really deep in the subject. I also started working with other people. And so I developed a whole methodology for not just healing and energy medicine, but also how to expand that consciousness, how to quiet the mind and tap into certain realities and different kind of parts of the universe consciously, not an out-of-body experience, but more expand your consciousness. So anyway, as I started working with different people, they would come to me, for example, for help because they are struggling or something, or they're stuck somewhere in some area of their life.
Right.
And as I'm helping them kind of retrace back the root cause of that problem, all of a sudden I see that their consciousness goes way, 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 way beyond not only this human body, but all of the past life, all the parallel lives, all the different aspects that they may have had in any material form. I see them on some other planetary system.
Oh, wow.
Very far away, or some other galaxy, or very far in the universe. And so people are going to say, well, how does she know that? That's what I said to myself. That's what I asked myself. What if I'm making this up? Because there's a responsibility when you start working with other people, for me anyway, when you tell them something, it's like, how do you know it's true?
Sure.
So what happens is you start questioning in the beginning, and you get validation. So if I'm working with you, for example, and I tell you this current problem happens with your brother, because when you were 7, this thing happened with your father or whatever, and we resolve it that way. If I'm tapping into information that you never gave me prior to now, and I didn't have any prior knowledge of that information, and that resolves your current problem, this means that it was true, right? It means that that was the root cause. So I'm getting validation that what I saw was accurate. So when you get validation from hundreds of people,
Oh, yeah.
then you go, okay, well, I'm not making this up. This is working.
So
And
it seems really interesting because I'm sure a lot of people who are closed off, maybe they might be open to some things, but it can be challenging whenever you don't have the right outlets or an appropriate way to share and to vent and to express yourself when you're feeling and experiencing these things. Have you ever found that some of the people you work with change in different ways? Do they feel like maybe they're a different person afterwards, or how has that been?
yeah, absolutely. I actually also, as a facilitator, as a healer, as teacher, counselor, life coach, whatever, all of these things. I feel you also you're kind of sending out. It's part of your contract, what I call your contract. You are emanating and sending out your intent. And my intent is to attract people who are ready for whatever they're going to go through with me. So, but sometimes, once in a while, you still get the one person that is completely closed off, and who would say, "I didn't see anything, I didn't feel anything." Once in a while.
Right.
And but like 2 months later or something, I'll get an email and say, "You know what? This thing just happened, and then that's what you told me was going to happen." So sometimes it doesn't happen right then, but it's almost like you're planting the seed.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so I'm just doing my work, and whoever comes through my path is meant to be.
Yeah, I think it's something like you said, when you're drawn, you feel open, you start to connect and align with people that resonate with that, and it's important to keep those things in mind, because some people, they ignore signs, or when they say they see different indicators around them, whether they're numbers, images, just things that pop into their reality, they feel like, well, that's something I should either try to keep more up to or be a part of, or they say, no, I'm just seeing things.
Yes.
Do you find that people usually that you're able to work with continue to see these things happening in their lives the more they work, or do they feel like it can be too overwhelming and they get shut back down? Is there an issue that ever comes up when you're dealing with something like that?
Yeah, honestly, this is a difficult journey, I want to say. I mean, because as much as a lot of people who come to me are very much eager to kind of awaken and try to understand the bigger picture and try to understand who they really are, what they're here to do. But then they go out in the world, and then they have the husbands and the kids and the family, or you have the world. I mean, look around, listen to the news.
Yeah.
You're living in the middle of an old paradigm.
Sure.
An old system that tells you if you don't see it, it's not there. Don't talk about it. Follow this, or you have to study this way and believe in this, and don't believe in that. So it's difficult to kind of want to do the work and start doing the work and maintain that focus for a long time. But I have to say that also the people that I attract, because that's my work really, and it's really the kind of crowd that's just so ready. Like, I'm just so ready. I just want to know the truth. I want to understand how I came about, like who I really am,
right.
How to express my true essence no matter what. And so it gets rough every now and then, but then I feel like they go for it. And of course I provide them with tools and information so that they can be supported along the way, courses and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's helpful to have those, because like you said, we're constantly challenged with different things, and it's not just you overcame the obstacle and now it's all just going to be easy from here on out. It's an ongoing challenge, and I think it's something that many people, they can get really closed down with, but when you're feeling that connection, when you're open, like you said, I think that people are more encouraged. And shifting gears a little bit here, with some of those that you've interacted with, do you find that some of these people who are ready to step into their authentic self and be in alignment with what they feel is their true calling or their passion, things like this, do you also find that they have something that they might describe as an interaction with some kind of non-human intelligence, whether they say angels or aliens or spirits. Do you find that that's a common theme with some of the people that come forward in this interaction?
Pretty much everyone that comes to me or finds me has some sort of interaction with a non-human entity. Now, I'm not talking about gray areas. I'm talking about a spirit guide, or at least some sort of higher self, higher guidance. They know for a fact, or they just feel it. I mean that they are more than this body, and they are receiving and getting messages and information and protection and guidance from their higher self, their spirit family, their guardian angels. Sometimes they see or they sense the presence of an archangel. And many also see extraterrestrial beings, and they're either not so much channeling, but they're receiving hints of, messages and things like that. So, because of my whole life, I've been in communication with all sorts of intelligences. I can guide them through the process and make more sense out of these experiences and bring more clarity to them.
I think it's important for people to have a sense of direction and to feel like they can have help along the way with someone who's a little more familiar. And I think the work you're doing is important because so many people now are seeming to awaken to these realities that they've always been connected with, and it might have been suppressed for whatever reason, whether it's family, heritage, conditioning, all these things. But without someone or other resources, like you said, to help prompt and to remind them, this can really close people off in a way that they don't ever step into their real true self. And so when we're dealing with these other forms, whether they're, again, these guardian angels or higher entities, the ones that we connect with in a way that feels spiritual, like you said, you feel an inner knowing. This is interesting because you've produced this great production. It's on ET Contact. And this is something that a lot of people either are dismissive of, or they see it as a pop culture thing that's either too silly or put it in a negative light. Tell us a little bit about the perspective that you share when it comes to these types of interactions with non-human beings or just higher spirit forms in general.
Because I've had the experiences myself, I don't need anybody outside of me to tell me if I'm right or wrong. I know what I saw. I know what I've experienced. And like I said, validation after validation after validation. Because the first thing the human mind does is deny and go, because that's the conditioning. You're supposed to dismiss anything that doesn't make sense, right, or that other people don't agree with. And so that's what you do. But then when you keep having these experiences without you asking for it consciously anyway, then it's like, whoa, this is really happening. And then this constant validation. So working with so many people around the world by now, I've been doing this for 15 years, hundreds of people I've worked with from different cultures, different backgrounds, different belief systems. This is a real phenomenon. I mean, whether people like it or not, or want to accept it or not, way too many people have similar experiences.
Right.
So because of that, I felt that we just have to just talk about it. We start talking about it.
Yeah.
Whether the mainstream or the old paradigm, whatever, believes it or not, or understands it or not, because otherwise you're kind of like living this secret, this double life.
Right.
It's like hiding, the truth. Why should you hide your truth? And so that's why I felt like I'm just going to make a movie.
Yeah.
I'm just going to make a movie and say it as it is, and also, as much as possible, bring some science to it when possible, if
right,
possible. And so, of course, I'm not talking about bringing science to the UFO phenomena or like how ships are flying through space or whatever. But there's a lot of evidence, or a lot of people who do have encounters and experiences are physiologically changed. Something happens to them on a physiological level.
Yeah.
They're just completely different. And so that piece I thought was very interesting to look into. What is it that changes in you that after an encounter? And what is and why is it that everyone says the same thing, including myself? Every time you have an experience, an encounter, and not just with an alien, like I said, sometimes it's just with your spirit guide or some sort of download. Because guess what? Everyone is still receiving information and guidance from their higher guidance, from their spirit guide, from their lineage. They just are not paying attention, or they're getting it in their dreams.
Yeah.
So they wake up, it's like, oh, I just had this incredible idea. Well, guess where this idea came from?
Yeah.
So because they're not open to the idea of receiving this guidance, in a conscious way, asking for it and receiving it, they're still getting it subliminally, if you will, through these the dreams and stuff like that. Which means everyone has this stream of guidance and information still coming through. So all this to say that every time we have this download or this connection to our non-human, our higher awareness, we are changed. Something changes in us. So that piece I wanted to investigate scientifically. And so we did this experiment with one of the scientists. And we studied, we took DNA samples from women placenta. And of course we did a series of experiments, but in the film we just showed one of them. But basically we did meditations, or we kind of invoked higher guidance, or some people may call it prayer, or whatever. Anything that allows you to tap into a non-human presence. And so we did that, and we intended to project it into the DNA sample just to see what would happen. And sure enough, of course, when you do it scientifically, you measure it, you get a baseline, you measure it over and over and over and over, over a long period of time.
You have to demonstrate it several times.
Exactly. And then you get a measurement, and then the moment that you bring in that energy, this was also demonstrated with Qigong masters and all kind of energy healers and all kind of things like that. But the way we did it, so as soon as we brought in that energy, the measurement just shot up 400% exactly at that time. So the time correlation was incredible. And of course, when we were done with that experiment, it went back to the baseline, which again demonstrates that something happens that is non-visible, non-physical, non-human, if you will, is physically affecting the DNA. So there is a physiological impact. It's not just made up. So we were able to demonstrate that on camera in that one film, and we did a lot more in the other film. But, yeah.
And so that's interesting, because while so much of a spectacle can be made out of all of these different things, whether it's UFOs, sightings, reports, aliens, all the different types that people think they are, if we are considerate of those things, that's fine. It's important to continue the research in that area. But beyond those things, it seems like a lot of the research and the work that you've done is leading to this, is that it's really about our advancement, our own evolution, and our ability to develop in ways that are beyond the physical. And so with this new project that you have, Superhuman, it seems to really touch upon, like you said, the genetic side of things, how it's more focusing on our own interactions rather than only thinking about the external sources, the external entities, phenomenon, things like that. It's more so about focusing on our own development and seeing how we as humans and people here, these beings, not just the flesh and blood bodies, but as our connectedness, we're looking to further our advancement, and how these things that we're experiencing really help connect with ourselves. So what can we expect from Superhumans, and how this is going to share little bit more on our own development.
Yeah, I mean, what is the point? What is the point of seeing all these UFOs and trying to prove that there are extraterrestrials or that there are angels? And what is the point of having all these experiences if it's not, at the end of the day, if we can't answer the question, who am I really?
Right.
Why is this happening to me? And why am I here in this body today? And what am I supposed to be doing? What is my purpose? So I think that at some point it starts to be a distraction to keep looking outside ourselves.
Exactly.
Having said that, it's great. You pick up great clues and cues and information, which is good. But to me, I like to bring it back to who we really are. And so that's the reason why the focus of my work is really to understand your personal lineage connection to the universe, how you got here, how you chose this particular incarnation, and what your real purpose is. So having said that, this is kind of like the overall umbrella, but I wanted to also bring it to the human consciousness being part of a larger consciousness, as I've been saying.
Right.
And how we're not really tapping into this higher awareness that we really have. So this is what I wanted to do in the new film, Superhuman. I wanted to demonstrate the power that consciousness can have on the physical world. Basically, mind over matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so of course I wanted to also bring a lot of science to back this up, and there has been a lot of experiments done. I'm not the first one saying these things or proving these things. Many experiments have been done with people focusing their mind, their consciousness on a plant, and all of a sudden it's,
right.
it's thriving, or on water and things like that. So we are demonstrating in the film, on camera, how it can be done, how it is done. And there's a series of experiments and a series of demonstration. In each step kind of gets to the same point, which is it is your consciousness, your higher consciousness, that started the process, that really affects the body and not the other way around.
Right.
And so, but we start from experiments with affecting the water pH, just focusing on it. We see the pH go, and then go down on cue, exactly when we're focusing on it, like I said, establishing baseline for a long time, all the way to demonstrating telekinesis, moving objects and things. But also we have kids and people from all over being able to read and do all kinds of things completely blindfolded. And then we measure the amount of light inside the mask, and it's completely zero.
Wow.
So I mean, it's pretty powerful. That's why it's called Superhuman.
Yeah, appropriately so. And I think that it's amazing to see how your work has culminated the awareness of many of these different areas in a way that it redirects our focus, again, not to just solely look at these cases and these reports. And it's important for those things to be investigated, but to really bring it back into ourselves and see how it resonates, it makes sense, and what we can do to further our own progression. And so for people out there who are feeling like they're on the brink of something incredible, but they can't quite put themselves up to stepping into that position of, really feeling like they can be themselves. What would you say to the people who are having a difficult time finding the ability to reach that point of being comfortable? They feel like they connect with these different things spiritually, or they have something, but maybe they don't know how to express themselves. What kind of message would you give to them?
You just have to make the choice. You have to decide that this is a hard reality. No matter how you look at it, it is, 3D world, and you're bombarded with all sorts of different kinds of information. It is really based on free will, so everybody's entitled to create it the way they want. But at one point, you have to get up and say, I'm done paying attention to everyone else except myself. I am choosing, as of today, as of now, to really believe in my own power and to create my own reality and just go for it. So there's a meditation on my website, completely free of charge. It's called Connecting to Source. It sounds very simple, or I made it kind of sound simple and look simple, but actually it brings specific frequencies in your body. It's only 7 minutes long. I did it on purpose just to make it very easy. And it centers you. It kind of brings you back to your core and aligns your mind channels, what I call mind channels, with source, meaning the hub, the intelligence of the entire universe. And so that centering, if you did that every day, like I said, it's free of charge. So, it's discipline, make the choice and go for it. Do this exercise every day for 15 days and set your intent every single day. Before you know it, you start to create a new momentum and you start to attract the right information. You attract, the next person who's going to say something that's going to guide you through the next thing. And before you know it, it gets better and better and better.
Well, that's amazing. So you offer a lot of great resources and help for people that are dealing with many different challenges and in different places in life. So how can people find more about your work? How they can go to learn more?
Yes, so people can go to CarolineCory.com, C-O-R-Y. And this has all the energy work and all the classes. They can go to the online classes and just see the list of the classes. There's all kinds of sessions, recalibrating session, healing sessions. They can also go to my website, my YouTube channel. From that website, there's lots of free stuff too. And they can just do a meditation every day or what have you, and just start to kind of reprogram themselves to be in that alignment. So that's for the consciousness work. For the movie, there's et-contact.com. And then for the new film, it's superhumanfilm.com.
Great. You've done some amazing work, and it's been an honor to have you here, Caroline. So thank you for continuing to expand our consciousness with everything you're doing, and it's an amazing part of everything that has to do with all of these different areas, whether it's something to get further in our understanding of ourselves, how we connect with the rest of the universe, or anywhere in between. So appreciate you helping us along this path.
Thanks so much for having me.
Appreciate it. And we'll see you in the Vortex.
If you liked this video, be sure to check out our other content and get connected on our page and social media sites. Every day, new discoveries are being made all across the world and beyond, so let's work together to find out what's next. And remember, we won't know if we don't go. I'll see you in the Vortex.